Hello, everyone. My name is Cheryl Crooks. I am Executive Director of CASCADIA International Women's Film Festival. And it is my pleasure to welcome this afternoon Paola Bernardini, one of our CASCADIA alumni directors, whose short films we were showing this weekend when the festival was canceled. So I am very happy to have her with us. Paola, are you there?
Hi, Cheryl. So good to
How
see
are
you.
Yeah,
I'm
¿cómo
good.
está?
How are you?
I'm good.
Good,
I'm so
good.
glad that you were able to be here. And hey, thank you so much for letting us, giving us permission to show your films this weekend as part of
Thank
our
you
sampler
for talking to
showcase.
me. Yeah, thank you for talking to me and showing my films. There's no better time than now.
That is for sure. Hey, I'd like to ask you a little bit about, tell everyone where you are right now. And
Well, I'm in New
you're in New
York.
York?
Yes. In my
In your
apartment by
apartment,
myself.
and you've been quarantined there or stuck there or stay at home?
Yes, I've been here since March 9th. It's been a long month.
What were you doing just prior to the outbreak?
I was just living my normal day-to-day life, going to work, working out, coming home, meeting friends, and all of a sudden I just locked the door and never came out.
How life has changed, huh?
I know.
Yeah. Say, the two films that we're showing this weekend are, I think I told you earlier, I didn't even have to go back to review them because I could remember them so well from the film festivals. One of them, Citta de Sogni, was in the 2017 festival, which was our very first film festival. And you came for that.
Yes, I did. It was a great, absolutely. I mean, that festival was there was so much good energy at the festival, and I couldn't believe it was the first time. It was the very first festival you ever did.
Yes, and we were so happy to have you, and I hope you got to make new friends as a result of that visit.
Yes, every time we meet very interesting people.
Let me ask you a few questions about that film, if I can. Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me, you didn't write the film, is that correct?
No, I did not write the film. It was an American screenwriter who did. He was a classmate of mine at the School of Visual Arts.
So was it his idea, or did you, because it's set in Italy and it follows these two Italian brothers that go off to find their aunt. And I just wondered, did he come up with the idea that it would be in Italy, or was that something that you suggested, or after you had the script, you looked at it and suggested? How did that all come about?
Yeah, sure. So he had a short story, if I remember correctly, was a short story or a short script that I read, and it was about two boys riding their bikes in the suburbs of New York, talking about one of the boys' father who just passed away. It was very short and it was very touching. So I asked him if he would collaborate with me to create a new story set in Italy, but inspired by his short story. So he agreed, and we wrote something. And he was kind of writing blind because he had never been to Italy. So I tried to explain it to him how south of Italy is, but he kind of thought it was a spaghetti western.
Well, it's
So
not a spaghetti western.
No.
It's a charming story.
Yes. So he came to Italy with me, and we reworked a little bit the story so he could see what the characters would see, be where the characters would be. So it was definitely a good idea to have the screenwriter come to Italy.
Is that the part of Italy that you're from, Puglia?
Yeah. Yes, it's the region in the south of Italy. And we used for the film the house that we have down there, me and my family. So it was a
So
very
nice.
very family involved film.
I'm going to plan a visit.
You should. You're welcome to come.
Tell
You
me about
invited
the.
me to
Tell me about.
Birmingham. I invite you to Puglia.
I would love it. Now, I have not been to that part. I have not been to that part of Italy yet, so count on it.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
Let me ask you about the two boys that played the brothers. How did you find them? Were they actors? I mean, how did you work with them? Because they're very good.
Thank you. Actually, I didn't know anyone in the south of Italy who did film. So after a little bit of research, we got a fantastic casting director who did an open call, but also picked some actors for me to see. And the search was long, but the little boy, Mattia, who plays Ernesto in the film, he was actually our first audition ever.
Oh,
And he was
wonderful.
so charming. I believe he was 9 or 10 at the time, but he was a complete natural, and he was so cute and charming. And then soon after, we found the other boy or young man. And then they both agreed to do the movie, and we started this adventure. Both the kids never really, I think they both did a little bit of theater at school, but none of them, they're not trained actors. And
Wow.
I didn't have that many issues working with them, because I think they were just natural. The only thing we did work on is because the south of Italy is composed of many different regions, and everybody has their own dialect. And the two boys came from two different regions of Puglia, two different towns of Puglia. So I had to try to balance their accent out for the film, so they would be actual brothers.
Well, it was really well done, and I'm amazed that neither one of those boys had any previous experience that way beyond their limited theater work, because they're just so easy in front of the camera, and they have a great rapport between the two of them. Did you work with them to build that, or how did that develop?
I think the boys got along really well, and then we did rehearse a little bit. So it wasn't hard for them to work together. They understood what we were doing. They understood the script. If anything, because I translated the script from English to Italian, and
Okay.
I didn't actually study Italian growing up, so I was making a lot of mistakes, and the little boy would correct my mistakes. So he was actually kind of involved in writing the script.
That's a good story. That's a good story. Well, it's got a nice twist at the end. I don't want to necessarily share it in case people want to watch the movie later, but you're so hopeful for these two boys as they make that whole trip. I don't know, did you just pretty much stay in just relatively a small area where you're following them along on the roads and across that field? That field scene is fabulous.
Oh, thank you. Actually, we traveled to many different towns to shoot the film. It was kind of a road trip itself. And yeah, sorry, what was the question?
Well, I was wondering about the end, the twist at the end that you made. They're so hopeful as they're making this whole journey, and then there's kind of a twist at the end. And I just wondered if that was the original intent, or was that something that in the process of writing the script that
Sure.
you came up with?
Let me tell you, I can tell a little bit what the story is. So it's about two boys who run away from their bad mother, and they travel by foot and go on this adventure in the south of Italy to look for a new life. So they're looking for the city of dreams. That's what city of dreams, that's what Citta dei Sogni means. But what they find is a little different. What inspired me and what I really liked about the script is the fact that they were chasing a fantasy. And that's very relatable to me because we do that every day. We're
We
always
certainly do it
chasing
now.
dreams. Yes, I'm kind of doing it right now where I left Italy to come to New York to be a filmmaker. So I'm chasing this fantasy. And sometimes what you get is not always what you imagined. So that was my drive for the.
One of the questions I was in fact going to ask you was how was it you came from Italy to be in New York? How did that happen?
Well, my father is a diplomat, so I actually have lived in New York before. And I just had it set in my mind that after I graduated from high school, I was going to come back and study film here. And that's exactly what I did.
Well, what made you want to be a director? What set you off on that path?
Well, I actually wanted to be an actress, but I found myself way too shy to be on stage. And when I first came here, I actually got involved in production. And I fell in love with the whole process. And the first time I got the chance to direct something, I realized how much directing was way more interesting to me than producing. And you just get, it's the freedom to tell any story you want. And I found that more interesting than anything else that I've ever wanted to do.
You attended SVA, School of Visual Arts, is that correct?
Yes.
So was that where you made this discovery about directing versus acting versus producing, or was it before that?
Before that, I had studied a little bit of producing, and then I worked in theater. But I applied to SVA to, I don't remember actually. No, I applied to SVA, and the first year you don't have to choose exactly what you want to do. You can choose. I think you have to choose the second year if you want to concentrate on screenwriting or cinematography or directing. And I think after the first year, after trying a little bit of everything, it was clear that I wanted to pursue directing.
Yeah. Well, you certainly seem to have a gift for it. I think you're one of the more talented young directors that I've seen come through Cascadia. It was so exciting to be able to show your films in the festival. That is for sure. Let me ask you about, you mentioned that you had studied acting, and in the second film that Cascadia presented, which was in last year's festival, you were just here last year, Solitaire. You are in that film as well as directing it, as well as writing it, as well as, well, you did a lot of multitasking with that film. Isn't that right?
Yes. I'm not actually a trained actor. I mean, I did a little bit of theater when I was growing up, but that's pretty much it. I never really got a big role or anything like that. But yeah, Solitaire, I put myself in the movie. But I did that because I had no choice. So basically what happened is that I had the opportunity to shoot at this great location, which is the Italian embassy in Brazil. But because it's an embassy, I couldn't bring a whole crew and disrupt everybody's work. So I just decided to bring a buddy of mine, and we would just figure it out, try to make a movie, just the two of us.
So the two of you did everything that you see on screen and behind the scenes. Is that right?
Yes. So basically what we did is we had a camera, we had a tripod, and we had a slider. I would shoot him, he would shoot me, and sometimes we just used the tripod and we to be in a scene together. It was very challenging. I mean, it took us forever, but that was the only way. I couldn't let go of the opportunity of a location that amazing, that inspired so many ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
no
especially
matter
for that
what.
story.
Yes, so it's actually so in the story we follow a young woman who has secluded herself in her mansion from any human interaction, so that she hires a handyman in the hopes that it will relieve some of her anxiety and find some companionship. But then she finds herself overwhelmed with attachment, and everything quickly snowballs when he attempts to leave the estate. So it's basically about a woman who self quarantined herself.
Yeah, you were a little bit ahead of your time in that regard.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and he is wonderful. It's Waylon, isn't that right? Is that his name?
Yeah, Waylon.
He
Waylon is
he is
definitely a
terrific.
natural actor.
Yeah, he is. Was he also at SVA, or how did the two of you, manage to partner on this?
Waylon went to SVA a year before me, and he actually came to Italy to help for City of Dreams.
Oh,
But
okay.
for that shoot, he came on as a gaffer for City of Dreams and quickly became our driver and support system for everybody, for everyone on set. So that's where
Well,
I met him, and
he is wonderful in that movie.
he's really good. He actually has another film where he made it himself and stars himself in it, and it's just fantastic. But yeah, I mean, I didn't really have much choice. He was the only person I could bring and do this with. He's the only filmmaker I would trust to do something this crazy with.
Did that story evolve as you were doing it, or did you have the script already written prior to your starting filming?
So one thing about this location is that it's so big. It has so many rooms, and they're all gorgeous. And so when you walk around there, you have a million ideas, and you kind of have to contain yourself. Well, it's okay. I can't do everything. So we did not have a story. I went there once. I came back to New York, and then I went back there with him. And the whole time, even on the plane, we're like, you know what? When we get there, we'll figure it out. We'll know what the story is. All we had was the last scene. Not the last scene, the scene in the ballroom, the dancing scene. And once we got there, the same thing happened. We were so overwhelmed with all the rooms, all the location was just insane, that we had so many different ideas. We couldn't pick one. And then at the end, I think it was a mashup of everything we had thought of. And just to let you know, we had intention to make a comedy, and we came out with a dark thriller comedy. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it is a dark comedy, but what is amazing, I'm very surprised to hear you didn't have it laid up beforehand, because so many times with murder mysteries or thrillers like that, every single there's a plot point has to be there for a reason, and the way you led up to that, you didn't have a clue until. Well, you're getting hints as you're going through the film. The elevator scene, you kind of give him the glance and that sort of thing, but until you start locking down the estate, you're not really too sure what she's up to. And I'm just amazed that that you didn't have that all plotted out.
No, honestly, it was very much improvised, because we did make a plan, and then as we were shooting, we were coming up with other ideas. So actually, when we did the scene of when she locks the door, that we made that up right there, then and there. And then it ended up being one of the most important part of the film. And then there are some things that we ended up adding later. When we came back to New York and we started editing, we realized that we were missing something. So we started adding a few scenes here and there. For example, when I eavesdrop on him on his phone call, and it goes from his shot to my shot. His shot is in Brazil, mine is in New York, and yeah. So we have
Well,
little things like that throughout the film.
It's great fun, and it's very well crafted and laid out. Let me ask you about what you're working on now. Right? You have a new project. I understand that you were in the middle or at the beginning stages of putting together when the COVID closure hit.
Yes, this is actually something I'm very excited about. I'm doing it with my friend Jan Dance and Noam Harari, and it's called What Were You Wearing? It's a short documentary about victim blaming from the point of view of people who experience sexual violence. And our fiscal sponsor is New York Women in Film and Television. So basically, we are planning on creating a fashion runway show where models will be wearing the recreated outfits victims and survivors wore the day they got assaulted.
Oh, wow.
So I think there are a couple of things here to explain, because obviously it's a very relevant subject always, but especially this month is Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
Right.
And some things that I'd like to explain in the film is that there's two things. There's rape culture. What is rape culture and what is victim blaming? So rape culture is the fact that rape and sexual violence is being normalized in our society through media, advertisement, everything we see. And then victim blaming is when a victim of a crime is being held responsible for that crime or partially responsible for that crime. And for someone who has experienced sexual violence, it sounds like, what were you wearing? Were you drinking? She's a slut. Of course that happened to her. Or boys will be boys. You should have known better. So of course there are people who actually believe these things, but I think a lot of us don't always do it with a bad intention. I have said some of these things, and I never wanted to hurt someone or support a rapist, but most of us do this accidentally because rape culture is part of our society. And I think it's also very simple. It's just hard to accept that bad things can happen and there's nothing you can do about it.
Is it a documentary, or is it going to be a fictionalized look at this, or how are you putting that together?
So I call it a stylized doc because the runway part is going to be staged, but we will be interviewing the actual survivors and victims, and we'll hear statements from them.
Do you have those people already? Have you already started filming, or at what point are you in the process?
We haven't started filming. We've talked to a couple of people to interview, but right now our main goal is to find more people to interview and to raise a little bit of money, because would like to make this properly. And to do that, as you know, to make a movie, you need a little bit of support financially. So we take donations through the New York Women in Film.
Do you have a website or a Facebook page for that right now if somebody's interested in donating towards that? And what if they want to get in touch with you about someone that might be a person that would have information or a story to share with you?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, if you Google "What Were You Wearing" Nywift, or if you go on the New York Women in Film and Television website and you type "What Were You Wearing," you will find me there and my email there. And also that's the link to donate if you'd like to donate to support us.
That's great. New York Women in Film happens to be one of our film organization partners. Did you know that, for the film festival?
Oh, really? No, I didn't know.
Yes, and we've had many submissions from their membership, and this year I think even one of the script writers who was chosen for the script studio. I think she is, or maybe there's two of them. I can't quite remember. They are both members of New York Women in Film, so they're friends of ours. The organization is.
They're great. I find them fantastic. They're really good organization. They give grants, they give talks. It's just one of those organizations that you can feel they really support women in film. Kind of like your festival. It's you have similar goals.
Yes, we do. I was going to ask you maybe one more thing here about, as a woman director, what are the challenges that you face in making any project?
I don't know. The biggest challenges that I've had, I don't know if something that happened to me about being a woman in film is just maybe some people didn't think I can do it, but I don't know if that was directly because I'm a woman or just me as a person. But I do remember that when my first film came out, some people weren't maybe a little jealous or weren't happy about it. But I don't know if that is because I was a woman. Actually, City of Dreams was shot by another woman, Yana. She's a woman cinematographer here in New York, and I don't think I've directly faced any issues. What I would like to do with the next film is we would love to hire at least 50% men and women. And I found that the submissions for women cinematographers sound, they're mostly men.
You should get in touch with Women in Media in Los Angeles, also one of our partners that works a lot with women behind the camera. They're a great organization. Well, if anybody has any doubts about your abilities of directing, they only need to watch those two short films. And I hope that they will this weekend. And perhaps later we can do some more, because they are two really wonderful movies. And I'm so happy that we were able to bring them to the screen and show them to our audiences. So thank you, Paola, for everything you've shared with us today. It's been so great talking to you, and it's so good to see you even from a long distance.
I know, we can't hug.
Well, after everything reopens, we'll do that. So I just want to thank you again, and I want to thank I want to thank Veritas Media for making it possible for us to even have this conversation today. And I hope everyone that's been watching and listening today have enjoyed it. And if they have any questions for you, we can try to put them in touch with you through our Facebook page, and they can just send us a message and we'll send it on and let you answer that. How's that?
That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much, Cheryl.
Okay, you're welcome. Ciao, Paola.
Ciao.